Formulas can be used to calculate a cost item quantity, the unit cost, or the unit price of that cost item. So while we're in JobTread looking at a budget, I can go ahead and open up the cost item details drawer just by clicking on the three dots next to the cost item, choose show details, and here I can enter in the formulas for each of these areas simply by clicking on the formula icon, and I can begin entering my formula right here. Another place that you can be adding your formulas on your cost items is directly in your budget view if you turn on your formula columns. So you'll do that by clicking on this gear icon, open up your budget view settings, and then you can scroll down and choose to turn on your quantity formula, unit cost formula, or unit price formula columns directly into your budget. I prefer to save this view as a new view, and in my case I just called it formula estimate. This way I can begin estimating all of my jobs and see the formulas while I'm doing so. When it's time to build a formula, all you need to do is simply click on the formula box here, and then you can scroll down and see all of the functions you can include in that formula, and you can also just begin by starting to type out the formula in the box. So in this case, I might add 2, and then maybe select a function plus 4, and then you'll see that the quantity is now 6. Let's clear that. You also have the ability to reference other information in JobTread to pull it into your formula. So in this case, I can click on the formula box and see various reference points that I can include. Now, these references are from either your job parameters, you can reference a cost group quantity, or you can also reference other data points within the cost item. So for example, if I'm building out the unit cost formula, I can reference the quantity of that cost item. Or if I'm building out the unit price formula, I can reference the unit cost or the unit quantity as well. And then even furthermore, you do have the ability to reference any cost item custom fields as well directly in your formulas. So now let's just start by beginning to create a formula here, and we're going to calculate how much our remodel permit is going to cost because the city might charge by square foot of the job. So I'll go ahead and click in this box, and then anytime that you want to add a reference point, you start by adding curly brackets, and then you can type in what that reference is. So in this case, I'm going to put square feet and then curly brackets on the end. Now that's going to say that this is a reference, and it's going to connect whatever I'm entering in the formula to where that reference is coming from. Now I can enter in the rest of my formula here. So I'm going to say square feet times, and then maybe the city is charging $1.60 per square feet. Perfect, so I'll enter that, and now you'll see that your unit cost is calculated. Now, when you're adding these curly brackets around a reference point, it's going to try to pull that reference from any of the places in that parameters list or in the cost group or cost item that you already have set. Now, if you don't have a parameter or another reference point that's called square feet, it will actually automatically create a parameter for you that is called square feet, as long as it's in those curly brackets. Now we'll go ahead and save these changes. And then let's go up to our parameters list here. So if I click on the parameters list, this is where I can create all of my parameters for this job. So what is a parameter? A parameter is simply a place where you can enter in job information that can be referenced throughout your formulas. So you can either preload these, either by pulling from your catalog list of parameters or entering them in one by one when you create a new job. Or, like I said, you can just start entering in the parameters into your cost item formulas, and they'll automatically be created in here. So when you're adding a parameter, you have 3 different options. One type of parameter is called a numerical parameter. So in this case, we're just collecting the length and the width by feet directly in here, so it's just a number. You also have a formula parameter. So in this case, we have square feet, and that's calculated from the length and width. So let's look at that formula here. We'll click Edit Formula, and we really just wrote out length times width, and so it will automatically calculate your square feet just based on those 2 simple measurements. We also have the option to add what's called a pick list parameter here, so I can choose pick list, and now I can enter in a drop-down list for my parameters. So here, let's call this existing plumbing. Perfect. And then I might then enter in the different types of plumbing that this remodel might already have. So we'll do cast iron, and then we'll also enter in copper. Then we'll do PVC, and then maybe PEX. Great. And then sometimes there's mixed plumbing, right? So now we have all of these options. So when we're going out to the job site and we want to take some notes about this job, we'll go ahead and choose from these to indicate what plumbing is already existing there. I'll hit done, and now you see that you have these fields to fill out when you're going through that job. Perfect. So let's go ahead and say it's cast iron at this point. We'll hit save. And now you'll notice when you are creating a new formula, you now have any of those parameters listed here that you can reference in your formula. Now, if you'd like to save even more time, or if you would also like to add even more precision to your estimates, you can go ahead and create these formulas directly in your catalog under each of your cost items. So here in each cost item, you do have the ability to add those formulas that then can be pulled into your cost groups or into your job budgets. Also in your catalog, you can go into your cost groups, and we'll search for a budget here. And I can then create all of my specific formulas for this cost group. So by default, it will pull in the formulas that are already created under the cost item list, but maybe for this particular budget template or cost group, you may have some specific quantity formulas that you'd like to include in here. So you can edit those here, and then they can carry over into your job accordingly. Now you also have the ability to create your flat parameters list in your catalog, and this will save all these parameters, which then become available to pull into your jobs later on. Some parameters that I would recommend putting in here would be those that are the drop-down menu or the pick list style, or any that are formula-based, because then it's a little easier to add them here than it is to add them to each of your jobs. When you have a parameter listed in a cost item that's not on your parameters list yet, that will automatically show up on your parameters list when your cost item's added to a job, but it's going to show up as a number parameter, and then you can go in and edit it, but it doesn't necessarily come in as a formula parameter or a pick list parameter because you don't really have all the information in there to let the system know what you want for your options or your formulas. So if you have any questions about your formulas and parameters, please contact your customer success manager or just contact support at JobTread.com, and we'll be sure to help you out.